It's business time, baby.
The Solomonster sounds off.
It's such good shit.
Mama Monster.
Conquered the street.
You like fighting a woman?
Oh my god, we're only an hour in. We have 2 more hours of this.
Come over here and fight me.
Delete. You haven't been beat up properly. Woo!
There are shows that are great. I just got done watching the last few matches from the Best of the Super Juniors the other night in New Japan. 2 excellent matches in Jon Moxley against Juice Robinson and Will Ospreay against Shingo Takagi. Double or Nothing a few weeks ago. A very enjoyable show that I had the privilege of being there live for in Las Vegas. Very enjoyable show. NXT TakeOver. I thought the NXT show was even better than Double or Nothing. So there was a lot of great wrestling out there. You don't have to look very hard to find it. This show was not one of those shows. But this show is not for you. This show is not for you. This show is not for me. We are not the target audience. We are not the target demographic. It was for the Saudi people. It is for the people of Saudi Arabia who rarely get to see WWE live in their own country. And so to that end, Super Showdown was fine for what it was. It was okay. It was a show. But it was nothing more than that. This was a highly missable, average show at best. One that, if you watch the last few minutes of that main event, was more sad and depressing than anything else. Sweet Saudi Money 3 is in the books until we get to Sweet Saudi Money 4, the search for more money that is. That'll be this fall. This is your Super Showdown review. I am the Solomonster. It is Friday, June 7, 2019. The Twitter poll is open for everybody who would like to vote. Right now, at Solomonster is my handle on there. I will have the results, the current results, a little bit later. Poll's going to be open for about 3 days. So you can vote thumbs up, thumbs down. If you didn't watch the show, you can vote that way as well, because I know Twitter is kind of a bitch. And it will not allow you to see the results unless you cast some kind of answer. So if you didn't watch the show, it can be very frustrating. So that option is in there as well. I'm also going to be taking your phone calls a little bit later. I'll throw up the number, not now. I don't want to clog up the phone lines too much, but I will throw up the phone number a little bit later on before we get to the main event. And we will be taking phone calls later. Also, just so you know, Super Chats are open for those of you who care to donate, as always, with these live streams. So feel free, if you so choose to do so. The Super Chats are, in fact, open, as always. But before we move on here, we have to transact some business. I got to tell you about something very important, and that is that this video that you are listening to and watching right now is sponsored by The Ridge. Now, we are a little over a week away from Father's Day. If you still don't know what to get Dad, or even if you already bought him some lame gift like a tie or a shirt, ooh, you got him a shirt. Oh my God, what a great son you are. Forget that. Get him a slim front pocket wallet from The Ridge. It has RFID blocking technology to protect from data theft. They come in titanium, aluminum, carbon fiber, over a dozen different styles and colors with a money clip or a cash strap on the back of each one, whichever you prefer or whichever Dad prefers. It's a quality product he will love. You will be able to use it every day, not just once a week like a shirt or a tie. Get 10% off your first Ridge wallet with free worldwide shipping just by going to ridge.com/Solomonster. Use the promo code Solomonster at checkout. That is ridge.com/Solomonster. And you can get yourself 10% off right now, courtesy of the Sound Off. Indeed. Indeed, the Sound Off. Always looking out for you guys. Now, let's get into this, shall we? Alexa Bliss and Natalya were... You thought I was going to say they had a match. You guys don't know the Saudi government very well. Alexa Bliss and Natalya were flown to Saudi Arabia with the hope that they would be able to host the first ever women's match in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But it was not to be. The negotiations between WWE and the Saudi regime obviously did not go very well because they were not approved to wrestle on this show. And so Natalya and Alexa, they were visiting children, I think sick kids in the hospital, and doing things that were very nice and were very cool. Wrestling was not one of them. Maybe next time. Kickoff show match was added late. It was the Usos taking on the Revival. We had Jey Uso. He had Scott Dawson pinned. Referee was tied up with, I believe Dash Wilder. I believe Dash Wilder was the one on the apron. I was a little discombobulated here during this match. But I believe it was Wilder on the apron. So the referee is distracted. Dawson, meanwhile, a few minutes later, hits a spine buster. A minute later, eating dual super kicks from the Usos, gets pinned. Crowd was into it. Paint by number stuff here. If you've seen, any Usos Revival matches before, I think we've seen a couple of them that have been better than this, but they all pretty much follow the same pattern. So again, pretty paint by number stuff here. On commentary, they said that both teams were essentially auditioning for a shot at the Raw Tag Team titles. And the champions, Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, if they ever decide to put them back on TV, they at least popped up in the Battle Royal later in the show. I think that's their first appearance on television in weeks. It's ridiculous. The main card opened. Huge pyro display. Looked like they blew their whole pyro budget for the year on this one show. Right out of the gate, we got Seth Rollins defending the Universal Championship against Baron Corbin to open the show, which can only mean one thing. Brock Lesnar, he wants to go home. So you put this stuff on first so Brock can do his thing, get back on the plane, and get the hell back to Canada. Or wherever the hell it is that he's living these days. Rollins had taped up ribs from the attack by Brock on Monday night. I thought these two had an okay match. Corbin hit the deep six for a near fall. He screamed at the referee, John Cone. Corbin got knocked out of the ring by an elbow from Rollins. And in doing so, Corbin grabbed a chair, brought it into the ring. Referee stopped him from using it because he's a fucking idiot and would get himself disqualified. Ref's trying to explain to him, if you use this chair, I'm going to have to DQ you. So Corbin decides, you know what, you're right. I'm going to throw the chair outside. And instead of going back to Seth Rollins, what does he do? He decides to yell and scream at the referee in the corner until John Cone started shouting back at him. And that allowed Rollins to schoolboy Corbin for the win. I thought Corbin looked like just a moron at the end of this match. Why would he... First of all, let's look at this rationally. And maybe that's my first mistake, trying to look at anything on this show rationally. And I get he's a heel, and heels do dumb things sometimes, but if you're Baron Corbin, you've been around long enough, you're challenging for the championship, right? You so badly want to become Universal Champion. Why would he reach for a chair? And then when he relinquishes the chair, instead of going back to Rollins, he decides, you know what would be a good use of my time? I'm going to yell at the referee in the corner. So if the goal is to make this guy look like he had a lobotomy, mission accomplished. So the match is over, he's lost, he's a loser. Corbin lays out Rollins with the end of days. That paves the way for Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman to come to the ring to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase. But on his way into the ring, Heyman gets tripped up in the ropes and drops the briefcase. The distraction allows Rollins to give Lesnar a nut shot. And you know what? If Brock is not wearing a cup by now, then he gets what he deserves. Rollins grabs a chair, the same chair Lesnar, in fact, brought down to the ring with him, and pounds on this guy with this chair to the point that Lesnar's elbow was all black and blue. It was all swollen when the match, or not even a match, when the segment was over. They zoomed in on the elbow. It was all black and blue and all messed up. And he also gave Brock a curb stomp on the briefcase. So another bait and switch on the Money in the Bank cash-in. But I do think I was in the same camp as a lot of you. I know a lot of people thought, well, that means poor Kofi Kingston is getting beat by Brock Lesnar later in the show. And you would think that that was going to be the case. The way the announcers were talking about this, they were like, well, I guess Brock is coming back to the U.S. the same way he left. He's coming back with the briefcase. They sure did their part to make you think that he might come back and cash in on Kofi. Did he? Well, stay tuned. You'll find out. As far as the match, look, the match with Corbin, I thought it was okay. You know, I rag on Corbin. Part of it is tongue-in-cheek, and part of it is just I don't see anything interesting about this guy. There is absolutely nothing appealing to me. There is nothing interesting to me. There is nothing exciting to me about Baron Corbin. I would be perfectly content to see them move on to a new challenger for Seth Rollins, I suspect, and Corbin had a promo later in the show, so it's all but a guarantee that we're going to get a rematch at the pay-per-view next weekend. Oh, by the way, there is another pay-per-view called Stomping Grounds coming up, and so I suspect that we will get the rematch between them next weekend, which is why they did the finish here. They didn't want to beat Corbin clean. They didn't want to have Rollins give him the stomp and pin him 1, 2, 3. They had to have some kind of a weird finish. I just think this finish makes Corbin look so stupid. We had Demon Finn Balor against Andrade Cien Almas for the Intercontinental title. No Zelina Vega. Crowd was whisper quiet for most of this. Andrade hit Balor, which is kind of weird because you would think that, you know, especially with the Demon getup, Balor would be pretty popular. I'm not saying he wasn't popular, but you would never know based on the crowd reaction here to this match. Andrade hit Balor with the Hammerlock DDT finish, but Balor kicked out. And I kind of chuckled at this part. You could hear Andrade look up at the heavens and just go, "Not my finish." He either said, "Not my finish," or "That's my finish." Like, he didn't know what to do. He was so upset. Like, I hit my finish. He kicked out. I don't know what to do. Balor hit the shotgun drop kick in the corner, went up top for the double stomp. Andrade met him up top. Balor hit a DDT off the top, and then the coup de grace to retain the Intercontinental title. You know, I thought mechanically this was a very good match, but after being so excited for the cash-in stuff with Brock earlier, it's just too bad the crowd didn't show that same kind of enthusiasm for this. You would hope, you know, certainly that when they do dust off the Demon gimmick, which they don't do very often, that it would feel like more of a bigger deal. This really didn't feel like a big deal at all. It kind of felt like a waste of the Demon gimmick, but I guess they did it because, again, they very rarely go to that part of the world. It was sort of a treat, I guess, for the audience, but should have meant more. Roman Reigns against the best in the world. Just ask him, he'll tell you. Shane McMahon. We got chance of CM Punk, speaking of best in the world, we got chance of CM Punk during Shane's intro. And again, a little bit during the match, CM Punk chants in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The man hasn't wrestled a match, at least not without a mask anyway, in 5 years. That's pretty impressive. Global appeal this man has. Even with Drew McIntyre in his corner, watching Shane McMahon hang with somebody at the level of a Roman Reigns, you know, the same Roman Reigns who's headlined, what, 4? 5? How many WrestleManias has this guy headlined already? It is beyond laughable to me. The feud with Miz was one thing, but to see him in there with Roman Reigns, as though he's his equal. Reigns caught Shane with a Superman punch at one point, knocked Shane off the top rope, and he only got a near fall. Shane kicked out. And I know that Roman doesn't typically win matches with the Superman punch, but still. I find the whole thing completely ridiculous. Shane hit a spear for a near fall. Roman went for a spear. Shane countered with a kick. Reigns punched Shane, who bumped into the referee when Roman came off the ropes for what he thought was going to be a spear. He instead ate a Claymore kick from Drew McIntyre, who was in Shane's corner outside the ring. And Shane McMahon pins Roman Reigns. This after 2 straight pay-per-view wins over The Miz. He can add a win over Roman Reigns to his resume now as well. Just give him all the titles. Why not? He's got the trophy. He beat Miz at every turn. Now he's beaten Roman. Just give him all the championships. Puts heat on McIntyre, I guess, going into his match with Roman at Stomping Grounds. Personally, I could not care any less about any of this. We had the Lucha House Party, 3-on-1 against Lars Sullivan. This was not good. Only one member of Lucha House Party allowed in the ring at any given moment. Lucha House Party got some offense. Sullivan was swatting each of them away. This should have been a showcase for Sullivan to just dominate each of these guys, because they're trying to portray him as a monster. Although spinning nursery rhymes on TV is not going to do much to help him. I'll talk more about that when I get to episode 603 this weekend. But Sullivan went up to the top rope. Lince Dorado, Grand Metalik, shoved him back down to the mat. They all start ganging up on him. They all beat down on Lars for the DQ. Yes, this match ended in a disqualification. And then, here's the kicker. Lucha House Party, right? They beat down Lars. They go to leave. They're walking down the aisleway. Lars gets up. He's not charging after them, but he gets up. He starts kind of stalking them down the aisleway. Lays out all three members of the Lucha House Party. And he leaves. So they felt they had to do a DQ finish, I guess, in some way to protect the Lucha House Party. Only to have Lars Sullivan lay them out anyway. This was a very weird match, and this was no good. We had Triple H against Randy Orton. It's 2004 all over again, or 2009, I guess, take your pick. Here's the funny thing about this, and some of you may disagree with me on this. Maybe some of you will call in, explain to me why I'm wrong here. I thought, up to this point, this was the best match on the entire show. Which is not saying much, but I'm willing to say that, even though the first half I thought was ungodly boring, the second half was better. Crowd was into it. Kind of felt like a big-time match. A lot of near falls at the end. The one major knock I would have on this match, way too long. No way this match had to go 25 minutes. Absolutely no reason for this to go that long. Triple H rode to the ring on a motorcycle. First half was very slow and boring, as I mentioned. Finally started to pick up in the second half. Orton hit his snap power slam for a near fall. Triple H hit a spine buster. Crossface on Orton. Orton finally reached the ropes. Triple H tried for a pedigree, but Orton countered with an RKO for a near fall. Orton teased the punt kick, as Michael Cole said, going back to his younger days. Tried for the punt kick, but Triple H caught his foot, gave him a pedigree for a 2 count. Outside the ring, Triple H gave Orton the same back suplex slam that Orton had given Triple H earlier in the match when he dropped him across the announce desk. Only this time, Triple H did that to Randy Orton not once, not twice, not 3 times. 4 suplexes, 4 back suplexes. He dropped Randy Orton across the announce desk. And, the table never broke. I don't know if they were trying to break the table or not. They may not have been trying to break the table. But you drop a 250-pound man on the table, you figure at some point, after 4 times, it might break. Never did. He threw Orton back in the ring and took his time getting back in. That ended up being the death of him because he ended up walking right into an RKO, the second RKO of the match, and this time Orton got the pin. And so at least the kind of full-time guy won the match. Again, I thought it got better towards the end. Best match on the show up to this point. I've never really been a big fan of the Triple H Randy Orton matches, just in general. I thought their WrestleMania 25 match was just terrible. I mean, again, mechanically, maybe it was fine, but as a WrestleMania main event, it sucked. And a lot of their other matches, I'm sure there have been some good matches buried in there. I do remember the one match, I might have been Extreme Rules, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, where Orton went for the RKO, and Triple H shoved him off. And he shoved Orton out over the top rope. Orton hit the floor and broke his collarbone. I don't remember if that was Extreme Rules or if that was a different pay-per-view. They've had some good matches. I just have never really been a big fan of the two of them in the ring together. I just don't think that they have great chemistry. The way that Triple H, for example, had great chemistry with Mick Foley and The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, other types of opponents. I never felt that he really had that same kind of chemistry with Randy Orton. But anyway, again, I mentioned at the beginning of the review, I had just gotten done in the last day or so watching the end of the Best of the Super Juniors from New Japan. And I just watched that before I watched this show. And so there really was nothing on this show that was going to be able to hold a candle to what I saw on that show. And I only saw the last 2 matches. I can imagine how great some of the other matches must have been. That's my fault. That's not WWE's fault. That's my fault. My stupid fault for watching a New Japan show before watching the Saudi Arabia show. It was going to be very difficult for anything on this show, frankly, to live up to any kind of reasonable expectation. We had Braun Strowman against Bobby Lashley. This was just a hoss fight. That's the only two words I wrote down here at the beginning. Hoss fight. Two big dudes beating the piss out of each other. Strowman had his working shoes on here in this match. He did a roll through at one point. He was coming off the ropes. He did a roll like he was a luchador. Lashley got Braun up for a power slam, which was very impressive. Got a near fall. Strowman did his ring around the ring a few times, his running charge. The shoulder tackle. He shoulder tackled Lashley a couple of times. Lashley gave Strowman a suplex on the middle ramp. He was up on the top rope when Braun launched him down onto the mat. And he hit, I believe it was two, right? I had in my notes. I thought it was two power slams. It was at least one. I thought it was two power slams before he got the pin. Strowman was dripping sweat. He was dripping sweat when this was over. The announcers constantly mentioned and harped on the fact throughout the night that it was hot as hell outside. And at the beginning of the night on the pre-show, they mentioned it was at least 100 degrees outside, which I can believe because it's frickin' Saudi Arabia. So you would expect that it's going to be very hot outside. And so Renee Young is all dressed up. She's not showing any skin except her face. Cole's wearing a suit. Graves is wearing a suit. They probably lost 30 pounds each just calling this show, sitting there sweating their asses off. And Strowman, you could tell, I mean, this guy was just pouring sweat. I'm surprised Shane McMahon didn't float to the back in a river of his own sweat after his match earlier in the night. You know what? Lashley and Strowman, I thought this was fine. These guys worked their asses off. You know, there was nothing on the line. There was no title. There was no stipulation. Nothing on the line at all. And Strowman has cooled off significantly since he won that greatest Royal Rumble match in the ugly green belt last year in Saudi Arabia. But these two worked their asses off, and I thought they had a good big man match. Nothing more, nothing less. We had Kofi Kingston defending the WWE Championship against Dolph Ziggler. I thought the match was okay. You know, I've seen these two have a gazillion matches in their time in this company, and I've seen them have matches a hell of a lot better than the one they had here, so it's kind of hard for me to sit here and get excited about what I saw from them here tonight. Kofi with an SOS to Ziggler and a trust fall off the top rope, which Ziggler barely caught him on. Inside, Ziggler blocked a Trouble in Paradise attempt. Dolph got a roll up, but Kofi kicked out. When he kicked out, Dolph's momentum took him into the ropes. Xavier was on the apron. Referee, I guess, didn't see any of this. Xavier kicked Dolph in the head, and that knocked Dolph backwards right into a Trouble in Paradise kick from Kofi Kingston, who scores the pin and retains his WWE Championship. He cheated! He cheated to win! What a horrible example this man has set for the youth of America and Saudi Arabia and the entire world. Terrible. I was surprised not to see a Brock Lesnar. I was convinced that we were getting a Brock Lesnar cash-in. I guess he really did just go on early in the show so that he can get on a plane and get the hell back to America. So there you go. That's about the most Brock Lesnar thing I can think of. Unless the intent in putting him on first was to just convince people that he was going to come out, even though he really wasn't. But I don't doubt for a second that, you know, Brock was more than happy to get on the plane and head home. I would be very surprised to find out that Brock Lesnar stuck around and watched the rest of this show. I'm sure he's probably already back home as we speak. Or at least very close. After the match was over, backstage, Byron Saxton was interviewing Dolph Ziggler. And Ziggler was going on about how I outperformed Kofi Kingston. I outclassed Kofi Kingston. And I quote, he referred to Kofi Kingston as the greatest WWE champion in history. Well, he is a comedian, right? He does comedy shows. Ha-ha! That's pretty funny. That's very funny. I could not believe that when I heard him say that. He then challenged Kofi to a steel cage match at the next pay-per-view next weekend for the championship. So there you go. We're going to get another rematch. So I thought that this whole automatic rematch thing was out the window. They found a way around the automatic rematch clause. You know what that is? Just have the challenger challenge the champion. The babyface champion is, usually your babyface champion doesn't duck any challengers, right? The babyface champion doesn't go, I don't accept your challenge. Every babyface champion in wrestling, every babyface champion in WWE, I accept all comers. Of course, I accept your challenge. So that's their way around it. Just have the heel come out and challenge them to a match, and they'll accept, and we'll get the same fucking rematches that we always get. 50-man over-the-top rope battle royal. The largest battle royal in WWE history. I don't have the roster in front of me of all 50 guys. Who cares? It was mostly lower card, as you would expect. Lower card talent mixed in with people like Samoa Joe, the U.S. champion, and The Miz, who got their own entrances. Cesaro got his own entrance. Titus, playing off last year, the Titus slide. This year he didn't slide. Titus got his own entrance. You know who didn't get his own entrance? Shinsuke Nakamura. It was very sad. I know he's not been on TV. He's not been a featured part of the show. I get that. But still, to watch Shinsuke Nakamura, only 2-3 years after he came in with so much fanfare, he debuted in NXT and had that great match with Sami Zayn, and he came to the main roster and he was wrestling John Cena and Randy Orton, and then he was in that feud with Jinder Mahal, and he lost a whole bunch of times to Jinder Mahal, and it just felt like he was never the same. He did turn heel, he did feud with AJ, and after that, bupkis, nothing. And to watch him walk down the aisle to some generic music, surrounded by a bunch of just low-card guys, NXT guys, it was pathetic. It was pathetic. But, like I said, Miz got his own entrance, Samoa Joe got his own entrance, Cesaro, Titus, and Elias all got their own entrances. Now, of course, this will come as a surprise, I'm sure, to nobody listening to this. If I gave you one guess as to who the very first man out of the 50 men in this battle royale, who do you think was the very first person to be eliminated from this battle royal? If you guessed EC3, ding, 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 you win a prize. EC3 dumped out unceremonious. This guy looks like he has just given up on life. Just give this guy his release. Let him go somewhere else. Free EC3. That needs to be a new hashtag. Get that going in the chat. Free EC3. It is sad. It is very sad to watch. We had a standoff at one point in the Battle Royal between AOP, Heavy Machinery. See, now I'm rhyming here. AOP, Heavy Machinery, and the Viking War Raider Experience. Some of these teams we have not seen on television in quite some time. We really have not seen... I don't know where the War Raiders have been. It looked like they were trying to push them. They were trying to get them over a little bit. And then nothing. Off TV. 2 weeks. 3 weeks. Nowhere to be found. You wouldn't even know they were on the roster anymore. Your Raw Tag Team Champions haven't been on TV for what feels like a month. Until tonight. So we got a little standoff between these three teams. And the Viking Raiders whatever the fuck their name is, both eliminated by Titus O'Neil. Sin Cara? Guess who he eliminated? Nakamura. Who Michael Cole insists on calling Shin. Every opportunity he gets. Shin. Shin's eliminated. Shin infuriates me. To no end. Infuriates me. Came down to Ali, Ricochet, Samoa Joe, Cesaro, and Mansoor. Mansoor is of Saudi Arabian descent. He has made a few appearances on NXT. And so he was in the final final six, whatever it was here. Ali and Ricochet, they suplex Joe out of the ring. So he's gone. Cesaro then knocks Ali and Ricochet off the apron. They're gone. Mansoor, it wasn't quite Maven and the Undertaker at the Royal Rumble in 2002, but Mansoor dumps Cesaro out of the ring, and it comes down to Mansoor and Elias. And he throws out Mansoor. He lands on the apron. Elias comes over. Mansoor gets his head underneath Elias, and he backdrops him to the floor to win the Battle Royal. The building erupted for their hometown boy. As I said, Mansoor, he debuted on WWE television last year at the Greatest Royal Rumble. They did that segment with the 4 Saudi recruits or prospects, whatever you want to call them. They had the Daivari brothers out there trying to get heat. They had the Iranian flag. It was a whole controversy. And then Arya Daivari had to issue an apology on social media. It was all bullshit. So he was in that segment 1 year ago in April of last year, and here he is now winning the Battle Royal. He was born in Riyadh, although he moved to California with his family when he was 12 years old. So he's been in our country for most of his life, but he was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. He's had a few matches on NXT television. He looked very impressive, I thought, in those matches. This was a huge moment for him. As I said, there were people crying in the audience. People were going nuts. I really didn't have any issue with them giving him a win here. I mean, I didn't have a dog in the hunt. Who cares? 50-man Battle Royal, what does it mean? There's nothing on the line. It has no impact whatsoever on rankings or championships or anything. They're in Saudi Arabia, so fine. Fine. Even better if they actually follow up on this and they do something and they push this guy because he's got talent. I don't trust that they'll do that. But if they want to use this as sort of a springboard for him and get him more featured on NXT television, that's great. But I just remember some of the other foreign stars they brought in, and when they made such a big deal, 20 years ago about Tiger Ali Singh, and they had a contract signing, and it was like such a big deal, and they did dick with him. So do I have any faith that they'll actually do something with this guy to capitalize on this momentum? No, not at all. Maybe they will. They should. They should take advantage of it. I mean, Braun Strowman won the Greatest Royal Rumble last year. What did it mean? It meant nothing. Look at the Andrade Battle Royal or WrestleMania every year. It means nothing. It's a slap in the face of Andre the Giant that it's even named after him. So it would be kind of refreshing to see them follow up on this in some meaningful way. He cut a great promo, Mansoor did, I thought, in the ring when this was over. He spoke from the heart about how much this meant to him. Coming from Saudi Arabia, he spoke, in Arabic, and everybody was cheering for this guy, and it was a really big deal. And we'll see, like I said, if they do anything with him. He is very talented. They could use this moment if they really wanted to make a new star, but that's up to them. That's up to Vince McMahon. That's up to Triple H. I'd say Triple H, because that means they'll keep him in NXT. It's probably better off that he stays in NXT for the time being. Before we get to the main event, as I mentioned, I was going to let you guys know what the phone number is, and there it is. You see on your screen, 989-282-SOLO. 989-282-7656 is the phone number to call. If you would like to chime in and let me know what you thought, we'll be taking your calls here in a little bit. Let's try to stick to this show if we can. We'll keep it to Super Showdown. Yay or nay, what'd you think of the show? Again, 989-282-SOLO is the phone number to call here. I'm just checking the chat here. I saw we got some super chats. I want to say thank you to anybody who I may have missed. I see Tibbs316. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Very much appreciated. Super chats are open if you are so inclined. And let's move on here. Let's move on to the main event. It was time for the first time ever. And my God, I hope it's the last. Bill Goldberg against The Undertaker. Now, before I get to this disaster, a little bit of a funny aside. Matt Riddle tweeted a screenshot a few days ago showing that Goldberg had blocked him on Twitter. I don't know when, but it looks like this happened a while ago. But he tweeted at Goldberg this week to tell him, hey, I can't wait to watch you wrestle in Saudi Arabia. And he put a bunch of laughing emojis at the end of his tweet. I didn't know that Goldberg had blocked him. I didn't know there was any animosity between these two. So I kind of looked into what this was all about. I didn't really get what any of this had, what the reference point was for any of this. So I looked it up. And I discovered the interview that Matt Riddle had given to Brian Fritz of the Sporting News 2 years ago. This is before Matt Riddle even signed with WWE. And then once I read the interview, it became pretty obvious why Goldberg blocked Matt Riddle. Once I was done reading this interview, Riddle did not pull any punches in what he thinks of Bill Goldberg as a wrestler. Now, I'm not going to read you all of his comments, but I'm going to read you a bunch of comments here on what Matt Riddle thinks of Bill Goldberg and why Goldberg blocked him on Twitter. This is what Riddle 2 years ago had to say about Goldberg to the Sporting News. He said, Bill Goldberg can't wrestle. He knows it. The fact that the guy is very bold and claims he does MMA training, and I know that's bullshit. I saw him throw a knee on Rusev his first night back on Raw, and he almost broke his hip when he fell on his back and they had him spear him and jackhammer him quickly. His work in the ring, people always go, oh, it's Goldberg. He can have a 1-minute match. Yeah, it's a 1-minute match because he can't work more than 1 minute. If he works more than 1 minute, it could be botchamania. Even with 1 minute, it's almost botchamania. Let's be honest, if we could get more than 1 minute out of Goldberg, it's going to suck. He's never been my cup of tea. I don't like how he acts like a shoot-style guy. I hated it when he did commentary for Strikeforce in MMA because he's not a legit credible character. He's an old man who hits a jackhammer and a spear. He can't even do a Kimura. If Bill wants to go to the gym, there doesn't even have to be cameras. If he wants to roll and train and see what it's like to be in the ring with a real stallion, he can. Any day, any time. And he went on to say Bill Goldberg did football, then parlayed that into doing a spear and a jackhammer, and then WCW let him go 250-0, and he got over. Let me beat Hulk Hogan in 1 minute clean for the title and see how my stock rises. Doesn't matter who you put in that situation. It just so happens they take the guy that couldn't wrestle for over a minute or two. And he's responsible for ruining Bret Hart's career, and others I could go on. There's multiple reasons why I don't like Goldberg, and foremost, it's because he doesn't deserve it. Wow. Matt Riddle, no fan of Bill Goldberg. Now keep that in mind. I mentioned that for a reason. Keep that in mind because I'm going to come back to Riddle in a few minutes. As far as this match, let me just say, I thought the entrances were the best part of this match. Goldberg, he was bleeding from the head. Again, he did this the first time he came back, and he made a few appearances on Raw, and they would knock on the door, and you heard a bang because he bopped his head. He headbutted the door. And what happened? That one time on TV when he was promoting his match with Brock Lesnar, he busted himself open, and he had a streak of blood going down his head on TV because the guy is so intense. He is so wound up, he doesn't know where to put all of that energy. And that's what the old Goldberg would do 20 years ago. He would headbutt the door. So he did it again here, and as soon as he walked out, he was bleeding. It wasn't like a streak of blood going down his head, but you could see where he headbutted the door, clearly, and busted himself open. And he may well have concussed himself, if his performance in this match is any indication, although I don't want to make any excuses for the guy, but he may well have concussed himself. As far as Undertaker is concerned, I thought this was one of the best Undertaker entrances that I've ever seen. I won't say the best, but with the music and all the stuff they were doing on stage, very spooky, I thought it was very well done. So as far as entrances are concerned, hey, A+ for both these guys. But then the bell rang, and the match began. Goldberg did the throat slit gesture, hit 2 spears. I thought that was it. I thought it was one and done. They had me convinced. 2 spears, I thought that was the end of the match. Undertaker kicked out. Now, this, by the way, this is coming from somebody who predicted that there was no way Undertaker was going to lose this match, but they convinced me in that moment that they might just end the match then and there. Of course, they didn't. So Undertaker does his zombie sit-up to a big pop. He tries for a choke slam. Goldberg counters into a knee bar, or something resembling a knee bar. Goldberg whips Undertaker into the ropes. Goldberg goes to spear him again, and Undertaker dodges and sends Goldberg into the corner, and he split his head open hard way. I don't see where there was any opportunity for him to blade, so I don't think it was a blade job. I think he hit the metal part, maybe not the post, but there's sort of that metal part between the turnbuckle and the post. He may have struck that. It was sudden, and it was obvious. He was bleeding like a stuck pig. He really did a number on himself here. Referee put the gloves on. He had blood in his eyes. It looked like he was having trouble seeing. It was bad. You know, I mean, he was covered in blood doing his best Dustin Rhodes impersonation from Double or Nothing. Undertaker hit old school off the ropes and then hit a decent enough choke slam. Undertaker then went for a tombstone. And he had a little bit of trouble getting Goldberg up, but he got him. but he had trouble kind of positioning him. Goldberg, I don't know if Goldberg, he was probably just out of it, honestly. I mean, the guy's busted open. He probably concussed himself in the locker room. This guy's all fucked up. So he had a little bit of trouble getting him positioned properly. He delivered a tombstone. Now go back and watch the replay, or look at any of the still images that are floating around on Twitter. He dropped Goldberg right on top of his head. I thought he broke the guy's neck. I thought he was going to break the guy's neck. It looked like he kind of shifted position and saved him, but he still dropped him right on his head. I mean, there was no daylight between the tip of Goldberg's head and the mat. So that looked like it sucked. Goldberg kicked out. They double clotheslined each other. Undertaker hit Snake Eyes in the corner. When he came off the ropes, though, Goldberg caught him with a spear. And I thought, all right, because here's the thing. Up to this point, yes, it is sad to see these guys get on in age and not be able to do the things that they used to be able to do or have the same kind of explosiveness, although I think Goldberg's, there's still an explosiveness there with him. But it is, as sad as it is, to see these guys grow old and not be able to do all the things they used to be able to do and muscle people up for their big moves. If I'm being perfectly honest, I thought up to this point, it was, fairly decent. They were doing their best, especially through Goldberg's injury. I didn't think it was completely horrible up to this point. And I am not trying to make excuses for them, because Goldberg was sweating buckets before he even got to the ring. But the announcers did mention it was 1,000 degrees outside. I'm sure that didn't help. But at this point, the match was okay enough, and then it just completely fell apart. It's like buying a used car that's decent enough. Like back in its day, it used to be like the really cool car. Now it's kind of old and outdated, but you go, you find out where it is, you buy the car outright, you put the key in the ignition, and as soon as you go to start the car and drive off, the engine falls out. That's exactly what happened here. This match completely fell apart, and it turned into one of the saddest things that you will ever see. Goldberg went for the jackhammer. Now, I'm watching this guy set up for the jackhammer, and I'm saying out loud, this is a bad idea. Don't do it. This is a bad idea. Undertaker's a big dude. Goldberg is tired. He's out of breath. He's sweaty. He's probably concussed. He's bloody. There is no fucking way that he is going to get the Undertaker up for a full jackhammer. So I knew that going in. This was a bad idea, but he went for it anyway because that was the plan. I can do it. No, he can't. He tried for the jackhammer, couldn't get Undertaker up all the way or hold him up, and he drops the Undertaker right on his fucking head. Gave Undertaker a brain buster. It's kind of like what happened when Undertaker missed, or the cameraman didn't catch him on that dive at WrestleMania 25. Thank God Undertaker tucked his head at the last second, or else that would have been disastrous. But he landed right on the back of his head and neck. Same thing happened here. So Goldberg gives this guy a brain buster. Then, once Undertaker recovers, as if that isn't bad enough, they obviously had some kind of a spot plan where Goldberg would pick up the Undertaker for a tombstone, he'd fall backwards, and the Undertaker would reverse into a tombstone of his own. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the finish. Undertaker reverses into a tombstone position, drops Goldberg on his head for a second time, and gets the pin. And that would have been a cool enough finish. And that at least, if the match would have ended that way, it would have been like, look, this match wasn't great, but these guys gave it their all. It really wasn't a terrible match. And I think people's opinions of the match would have been very different. But that's not how it went. Goldberg went to give Undertaker a tombstone. When Undertaker went to go do the reversal spot, Goldberg just fell down. He collapsed. He didn't have the energy. And Undertaker fell down as well. And everything just fell apart. I am sure. I haven't seen any news. I don't have any inside sources. I just watched the show like you did. And I am sure that The Undertaker decided to call an audible at this point and just give Goldberg a chokeslam and end it. And he gave Goldberg the worst chokeslam of all time. I think this chokeslam may have been worse than the one that he gave Hulk Hogan in that match at Judgment Day in 2002, the one that Hogan just would not go up for. I'd have to go back and watch the Hogan. The Hogan one might be a little worse. It's been a while since I've seen it. But this was just awful. What made it even worse? He pinned Goldberg with it. That's how he won the match, with this awful looking chokeslam. And to be fair, I mean, the match probably should have ended at least 5 minutes before it did. But holy shit. Now, Undertaker is not one to show emotion. But when they zoomed in on his face when this match was over, now he won the match. Keep that in mind. Undertaker won the match. When they zoomed in on his face, he looked as pissed off and as disgusted as I have ever seen him. He could not even hide how disgusted he was with that finish. Happy. And you can see why. That clearly was not the finish that they had in mind. Now, this was a match that I thought started out well enough and turned into a total disaster. Let us hope that that is the last time we will ever see those two in the ring together for their own sake. I mean, when I first heard that this match was being made, I get the fact, oh my God, Undertaker and Goldberg, that's like a dream match. I mean, there's a lot of name value there. It's a match we've never seen before. I get it. It's a big attraction. Even in 2019, oh my God, Undertaker against Goldberg, what a big attraction. I get it. I get it. But when I first heard they made this match, my first thought was, if I made a list of every WWE contracted performer, legend, going back 5 years, anybody who's under contract now, anybody who's wrestled for them, if I made a list of the best opponents for The Undertaker, I'm pretty sure Goldberg, if he's not last, would be near the very bottom of that list. And I get that Undertaker against, Daniel Bryan does not have the marquee value that Undertaker against Goldberg has. But when I think of safe opponents, when I think of good opponents, smaller guys maybe who can, bump around and make Undertaker look like a monster again like he used to be, I don't think of Bill Goldberg. I think Goldberg was the worst possible opponent that The Undertaker could have had. And I hope that this, as I said, is the last time we will ever see them in the ring together for the sake of their legacies. This is not how I want to remember Goldberg and The Undertaker. I thought Goldberg acquitted himself very well. The last time we saw him against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, they had what I thought was a great match. And if that was the last we ever saw of Goldberg, that would have been a hell of a way for him to go out, defending the championship at WrestleMania in just a quick 5 or 6 minute all-action knockdown drag-out match with Brock Lesnar. Not this. But as long as WWE is serving up those sweet Saudi paydays, my fear is that we're only going to get more of this. And it may be an attraction for the Saudi fans who never get to see the big names come to their country. I get that. But at some point, they need to realize that these guys are just embarrassing themselves. And you could say, oh, Goldberg may have been concussed and it was 100 degrees outside. All of that is true. But they are embarrassing themselves. Guess what? It's probably going to be 100 degrees the next time they go to Saudi Arabia. At some point, you have to stop making excuses. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see these two embarrass themselves like they did on this show. The effort was there. But in the end, it was just sad. Nobody wants to see these guys go out like that. This is why a match like Sting against The Undertaker. Sting still does interviews to this day. If I came back, what's the match I want? There's only one match I want. I want to wrestle The Undertaker. Still, he says this. This is why a match like Sting and The Undertaker is better left to our imagination. Because if Sting could get medically cleared, you know that we would be getting that match on one of these shows. We might have gotten it on this one. And there is no way that it could possibly live up to expectations. And before we get to your phone calls, I will end with some parting words from Matt Riddle. I mentioned Matt Riddle earlier. I said I was going to come back to him. I will end with some parting words from Matt Riddle from his own Twitter account, who was watching this match with great interest and who had this to say when the match was over.
Goldberg, you lived up to the hype yet again. You're absolutely the worst wrestler in the business, bro. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
Well, there it is. And look, there's going to be a lot of people who don't like Matt Riddle or they think he's being very arrogant. And I'm not saying he isn't. I just find the whole thing amusing. Because up until this week, I really, honest to God, I did not have any idea that there was such bad blood between the two. And also, to be fair, you cannot put all of that on Goldberg. It is very unfair to blame everything that happened in this match on Goldberg. It cuts both ways. But like I said, I find it very amusing, the level of hatred that this man has for Goldberg. But it is on both guys. It's not just on Goldberg. It's on Goldberg and it's on The Undertaker. And at some point, you've got to know when it's time to fold up the tent and just walk away. Let's check the Twitter poll so far. There it is. Those are the results so far. Votes are still coming in. Now, this is as of actually, as you can see, a couple of hours ago. So the vote total probably looks a little bit different by now. But 2,300 votes as of a couple of hours ago. 10% thumbs up. 35% thumbs down. 55% did not watch. No big surprise there. Shows in the middle of the day on a work day, on a Friday. That coupled with the fact that a lot of people said flat out, they were not going to watch this Saudi Arabia show. I think people made that very clear. Not everybody was going to be watching this, and so it really is no great surprise. Let's take some of your phone calls, shall we? I want to hear from you guys. The number, you already see it on your screen, 989-282-SOLO. Right now, let's go to, let's see here. Who are we going to go to first? Let's go to Jimmy in Virginia.
Hey, how's it going, Jason?
I'm exhausted. It's been a long day. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm doing okay, man. I just want to talk about pretty much give my thoughts on the last match, the main event, Taker and Goldberg. I feel like, first of all, Goldberg looks good for his age, but I kind of felt like the heat had a lot to do with the match also, and I think Goldberg just missed so many spots. And then now I see why Taker, when Kurt pretty much asked him to retire him this year, Taker said no, and Sting also said that he asked Taker for the match, and pretty much he said he never answered him, so pretty much it was a no. That's why he likes to work with younger talent, to make him look good. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and again, it makes sense. I said before, it's not as sexy as Undertaker against Goldberg or Undertaker against Sting, but, there's plenty of people on that WWE roster. Smaller guys, younger guys who would make, if Undertaker insists on doing singles matches on these big shows, plenty of people like a Daniel Bryan or take your pick. I don't want to say Ali. He's not at that level. But guys who are more than capable in the ring, who could step in there. Look, people have said, what about doing The Undertaker against the Demon? What about the Dead Man and the Demon at WrestleMania next year? Undertaker against Finn Balor. I don't have any interest in seeing that match. I don't have any interest in seeing Undertaker wrestle anymore. That's me. His entrance will always be cool. I thought his entrance tonight on this show was one of the best he's ever done. But when the bell rings, it all goes downhill from there. But if you have to pick opponents that would be better off for him, yes, somebody like a Finn Balor, somebody like a Daniel Bryan, they will be able to carry the load and make The Undertaker look good and bump around for him. They can deceive people into thinking The Undertaker is better than he really is. A guy like Goldberg or Sting at this stage is not going to be able to do that. And then in the end, nobody looks good. So I don't see how it benefits anybody. It benefits Vince McMahon, right? I guess it's more money in his pocket. Jacob in New Jersey.
Solomonster.
What's going on?
Hey, what's up, man? I wanted to call in and add my 2 cents to this very cheap show, which is very ironic because the WWE got paid $1 trillion for these events, but this event had all the glitz and glamour and pyro and blood, but in my opinion, it was just a snooze fest. Like, there was no care in the world. And hey, I get it. This show was basically overproduced, overhyped, in your house live event, but it came off like just nothing. None of the matches, like there was nothing behind it. And with like the Battle Royal, I didn't even know who Mansoor was. I didn't even know he was in the match till like the last 5 minutes. And listen, Byron Saxton called it the most prestigious Battle Royal in WWE history. And I get it. He's doing his job, and he's basically told to say that. And this is their show. Like the Saudis, this is their show for them. And, hey, the WWE, like, they did a great job with entertaining the crowd, because I did enjoy how when Mansoor won, the kids were jumping and everybody was clapping, everybody was crying. There was so much emotion in the air. That was awesome. It's just, it made the actual roster look so bad, because the skinniest man, the smallest man in the ring wins the whole thing. When you have 50 quote-unquote men in the ring to start off this big-ass Battle Royal, but the skinniest little man wins it. But I get it. You know, you got home court advantage. You're home. He's the guy who was there to represent his country, and I get it. Give it to him. That's a cool thing, but it's just, it ruined. This was basically a jobber fest, and it made the jobbers look worse than a jobber. I don't know what there is worse than a jobber. I wanted to also talk about the Taker match before I go. Listen, Goldberg. I'm one of the biggest fans of Goldberg's entrance more than his actual in-ring, like, whatever. But like, he half-assed that entrance. I don't know if he got lost in the back, or like when they panned away to the crowd and they showed like the crowd instead of him coming out. That was the longest time Goldberg took to ever come out of like the entrance to the back. And it's like, I just feel like he half-assed this match too. I feel like he expected the win because he's Goldberg. And listen, I agree with you, man. After this, I don't want to see the Undertaker wrestle anymore. And in my opinion, he should have left it. He should have called it a day when he left the gloves and the boots in the ring. That should have been the last time we ever saw the Undertaker, because I just feel like at this point, because I grew up watching The Undertaker. I'm 24 years old, and I grew up with, like, the whole John Cena era when it was his time back in, like, 2006, 2005. And The Undertaker was a big part of that era, too. It was an honor to watch that guy's matches. But now it just seems like Vince is just using him for that big name, that big match feel, like, you know? And it's just like he should have just called it a day when he left those fucking boots in the ring.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I was at that WrestleMania, and I thought that would have been the perfect time to just call it quits. He had a terrible match with Roman Reigns, but there were people in the audience who were crying when he was pulling the jacket off, and he was taking the gloves off, and he looked around, and they zoomed in on him, and he kind of took this big exhale. Like, okay, I'm finally done. And he kissed his wife at ringside. He walked to the middle of the ramp, and he vanished into a plume of smoke, and the lights went out. And I always thought, when people would ask me, what would be the greatest way for The Undertaker to go out and never be seen again, right, until he goes into the Hall of Fame? And I thought, well, he should just vanish in a plume of smoke. And I thought, that's great. That's a great way for him to go out. And then he came back the very next year, and he beat John Cena in a 2-minute match. And he just keeps coming back and keeps coming back. And here's the thing. You can blame Vince McMahon all you want to. Nobody is forcing The Undertaker to come back and wrestle. Undertaker does not, he does not say, well, Vince wants me to keep coming back, so I guess I have no choice. No, the guy has a choice. All he has to do is go to Vince McMahon and say, I'm done. And what's Vince going to do? He can't do anything about it. It's The Undertaker who can't resist the spotlight. And I get it. It's hard. It's hard to give that up. It's hard to give up the money. I can only imagine what his paycheck must look like for this show. But you can't put that all on Vince McMahon. These guys have to know when to step away. They have to know when enough is enough. This is the same Undertaker who in 2002 did an interview with Michael Landsberg before WrestleMania 18 and was talking about Hogan and guys who got older, who overstayed their welcome. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy who overstays his welcome and stays too long and embarrasses himself. And here we are. It's been almost 20 years since he gave that interview, and we see matches like this. It's sad. It's very sad. Jordan in DC, you're on the air.
Oh, what's up, Solomonster?
What's going on, man?
Yeah, I got a question about the Miz Battle Royal. The way he got eliminated was so uneventful, and then I look at how he got swept in his feud with Shane. And I know you talked about how you didn't want to see him turn babyface because you remember how it was the last time. But I was such a huge Miz fan during his last heel run, the matches he had with Rollins, the matches he had with Ziggler, that I thought he could make it. Do you think there's any way to salvage his face run? Because I feel like he's losing his main event status by continuing to be a babyface.
As far as The Miz is concerned?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, The Miz still seems pretty popular to me. I don't see him as a top babyface. I mean, he comes out, he gets a pretty good reaction. It's surprising to me. I really didn't think people would take to him as a babyface the way they have. When you say salvage, look, losing twice to Shane McMahon in pay-per-view matches, that won't help. That's not going to help you out too much. I mean, was it building to anything? Apparently not, because right now Shane McMahon is in full feud mode with Roman Reigns. It looks like they've abandoned the whole thing with him and The Miz. The Miz may never get his win back. The Miz lost 2 pay-per-view matches in a row to Shane McMahon. So is it really any surprise that he may feel like he's lost a little bit of momentum? You watch WWE, it's very obvious who the main characters are that they are pushing. And if your last name is McMahon, well, you're in pretty good shape. We have another caller here from DC. Garrett, you were on the air.
Hey, Solomonster, how's it going?
Going pretty good, Garrett. How are you?
Since I didn't watch this show, I've had a great day, actually. So
you were the smart one.
Yeah. I just got a question about it. Since we had like 3 Saudi money shows so far, I want you to rank these shows: the Greatest Royal Rumble, Crown Jewel, and the show a Super Showdown. Which one was the better show, and which one was, the terrible show in general?
That's tough. I don't really remember too much about what the Greatest Royal Rumble card even was. I mean, was that I guess that was the show that had the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns cage match. And we had the Battle Royal that Braun Strowman won. And then beyond that, I, off the top of my head, don't even remember any of the other matches. That's how much of an impression it made on me. I think there may have been a match with AJ and, was it Joe? Right? Because Brian wouldn't go over to Saudi Arabia. And so I think it was Joe. And then they beat Joe. And again, I don't remember much about it. Ranking them, I mean, it would be like if you've suffered terrible illnesses in your life and you had to rank the illnesses from the least worst to the worst. That's kind of what this would be like. The shows, I can't even say all of the shows were like horrible dreck. They were just, they were pointless, meaningless, trivial, average shows. And so they kind of all blend together. Crown Jewel was very bad. If I had to put one at the bottom, I'd probably put Crown Jewel at the very end. This one may be in the middle, and the Greatest Royal Rumble would be the best of the worst, I guess. That sounds like it makes sense to me. Take a few more calls here before we wrap up. Marcus in Brooklyn. Fellow Brooklynite, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason. How you holding up after that garbage pay-per-view?
I'm holding up okay. How are you doing? I assume you watched the show. What'd you think?
Man, it's just unbelievable to think that, 6 days ago, this NXT put on like a great show, Gargano and Cole, 5-star match, and we see this shit show, today, and the Goldberg and Undertaker match, the worst match of the year, like so far. It's just, I don't know what to say. Like, it's so bad that I'm like, I don't. I've never been so disappointed. I've never been so disappointed to be a WWE fan right now. After that debacle, you said it like you don't want to see Sting out there. I won't be shocked at all. We see Sting in the Undertaker face off. At the next one. Don't be shocked.
Don't put any.
No.
Don't put any ideas in their head. Come on now.
Hey, the Sorry Prince wants it. He gonna get it, right? We might see Hogan come back. Who knows? Because that's what he wants. We saw Shawn Michaels come back. We saw Goldberg tonight. Who knows? Sting, Hogan, who else?
Well,
Who
I mean,
else?
look, don't forget, and thank you, Marcus, but don't forget, the Saudi prince allegedly wanted the Ultimate Warrior and Yokozuna to be on that first Saudi show, and that's why we had that one sumo guy who we saw that one time. He might have been in the Battle Royal. We never saw him again. I don't even remember the guy's name. And I'm like, why is this guy on the show? Because the Saudi prince wanted Yokozuna. I would be very curious to know, did they explain to him that Yokozuna was dead and we will find another sumo? Or did they not say a word and say, oh yeah, sure, we'll get Yokozuna? And they put him in there with a different name, hoping that the prince would not realize that it was in fact a different person. I would love to know the answer to that question. I'm not so interested that I care to find out and ask around, but I'm mildly interested to know the answer to that question. So yeah, I put nothing past them. What other legends are left? At some point, you run out of names. We've seen Sting. He's not medically cleared. Throw him out. Goldberg. I don't need to see him again. Undertaker. I don't need to see him again. Who else is left? At some point, you run out of legends. Oh, CM Punk? He seemed to be pretty popular in Jeddah tonight. He's not coming back. Not to WWE anyway. Bret Hart can't wrestle. Shawn Michaels, he did the one match. I honestly don't think we're going to see him back in the ring. I think he got his fill. After that match at Crown Jewel, I think he's truly done. Stone Cold, he's been smart enough to resist and say no for all these years. How long has it been since he retired now? 2003 to 2019. Do the math. He's not coming back. The Rock, they couldn't get him back if they wanted to. The guy is so busy. Would Big Show be considered a legend now that you can plug into a big match like that? Or Kane? God for fucking bid. At some point, you run out of... I got an idea. Here's an idea. Get superstar Billy Graham. He needs the money. If anybody could use a big, sweet Saudi payday, it's superstar Billy Graham. Wheel him down to the ring. Get him in there. I'm sure he'd take the payday in a second. Let's go to Chelsea in Missouri.
Hi. I'm actually excited to be in here.
Oh, my God. We have a female voice on the show. I'm so excited.
Oh, well, speaking as a female, I hate the Saudi shows because the females are not represented. I personally think that for every Saudi show, there should be a full women's pay-per-view. What do you think about that? And my gut feeling is telling me that Shane McMahon is going to be the WWE champion by SummerSlam. For some reason, they want to push Shane McMahon, and I don't know why. And another thing, I really think Undertaker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels should have ended at WrestleMania in that big Hell in a Cell match. So what are your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling in. So I'll take the first question first. So every time they do a Saudi pay-per-view, should they do an Evolution-type show and have like an all-women show? I wouldn't have any issue with that. It feels to me like ever since Ronda Rousey went away at WrestleMania, the women's division has clearly not been the same. They've not been emphasized. There's not a whole lot going on to really get invested in story-wise. It's almost like they've reverted back to the way things were pre-Rousey. So they'd have to come up with a way to get me interested again and wanting to see an all-women show. The first one had a lot of... it was the first time, and so that was sort of the selling point for it. And I actually thought the Evolution show last year was one of the better shows of the year. I thought they had a hell of a show. So if they can come up with the right combination of matches, I wouldn't mind seeing it. It's fine with me. Get some NXT women on that show. Maybe like, Bianca Belair, Shayna Baszler, Io Shirai mixed in with some of the main roster women. I think that would be fine. As far as your point about the end of an era match, there's sort of an irony to that, right? The Hell in a Cell match or WrestleMania 28 was called the end of an era match. I'd still love to know what era exactly that ended. That was in 2012. That was the very first WrestleMania I ever attended live. What era ended at WrestleMania 28? I would love to know. Because each of those men ended up wrestling. Shawn Michaels came back and wrestled. Undertaker continued to wrestle. Triple H continued to wrestle. What era exactly ended at WrestleMania 28? But I agree. That sort of iconic shot of the three of them sort of embracing and hugging in the aisle, looking out into the crowd, I think that would have been a hell of a way for them to kind of hang it up. Take a few more here. We'll go to... I hope I have the name right. Is it Moody in Toronto? Is that the correct name?
Yep, that's me.
Now is that your
Why are
name,
we
or
getting
is that your name, or is that a description of how you feel after this pay-per-view?
Honestly, that's how I feel about this entire Saudi deal, to be honest with you.
I see.
That is a nickname, though, but hey, yeah.
Well, what'd you think?
Honestly, I didn't watch the pay-per-view. I follow some pages on Instagram, and that's how I kept myself updated. I just do not feel like watching these shows.
Well, I mean,
the quality is just...
You're not the only one I've heard that from.
It's just, honestly, I think it goes deeper than that. It's just like, I feel like WWE is putting too much focus on the Saudi shows. It's affecting everything else that they're doing. It's like they're going to put more of their focus on these shows, and then they're just going to eventually forget about WrestleMania. And well, my question essentially was going to be was, do you really see this deal lasting the entire 10 years?
You know, I don't. And I've said that before on the podcast. I would be very surprised if this deal goes the full 10 years. I just feel like there's such volatility when it comes to Saudi Arabia. There was another story I saw earlier about them looking to execute like another teenager. There's some awful shit going on. And 10 years is a long time. So now they're 1 year into it. They've got 9 more years. Something is going to happen at some point. And WWE can kind of turn a blind eye to it and say, we have a contract and we're trying to bring change to Saudi Arabia. Oh, yeah, they're bringing change to Saudi Arabia. They brought Alexa Bliss and Natalya. They flew them halfway around the world to Saudi Arabia to do a match that they were not allowed to do. So they turned them right back around and sent them home. That's change. And WWE would say, well, change takes time. It's only been a year. I don't doubt that at some point we're going to get a women's match on one of these Saudi Arabia shows. But that would be their argument. We're bringing change to this country. We're going to change the world. Something is going to happen. Something awful, I hate to say, is going to happen somewhere in the world regarding Saudi Arabia, some kind of international incident, something like the Khashoggi. Something will happen, and I do believe that this agreement will be cut short. When that's going to happen, though, I can't say. I think it's going to be a while. I think it'll be at least a couple of years yet. There's a lot of money on the table. But I do think it will happen. Let's go to 216. You are on the air.
Yes. Hi, Solomonster. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. My name is Angel. I'm calling from Cleveland, Ohio. I listen to your show all the time. I'm a very, very big fan.
Thank you, Angel.
So I just literally got done watching the pay-per-view. I was at work the entire day, so I didn't get to watch the whole entire pay-per-view, so you're probably cheering for joy for me. But literally, I just watched the main event because I skipped the entire pay-per-view because I wanted to see what was going to happen. And definitely in that match, like in the beginning, like I could tell, like they were trying to go for like the nostalgia, like the mystique that was Goldberg back like in the 90s, like, and all through in WCW. But it definitely looked like you said, up until when he hit his head on the post was definitely where it all just came crashing down, because that jackhammer was just nasty, especially when he landed with Taker on his head, because you could tell Taker was pissed. But my question is that with these, Saudi Arabia shows, who do you, like, in your own opinion, who do you think that they'll try to get, like, for these little nostalgic type matches, as you were talking about before? Who do you think they'll try to pull out the gate with the next one?
I don't know. I don't know. I think Undertaker is probably not done, so I think we'll see him back at some point, for whether it's a tag match or a singles match. As far as like another really big name, I shudder to think somebody like Hogan. Hogan has no business being in the ring. Hogan's still floating around there, though. He's still training, and I'm sure if Vince went to Hogan and said, hey, look, the Saudi prince wants you to wrestle, we'll give you a check for $1 million or $500,000. Not that he needs the money after the Gawker lawsuit. But do I think he would do it? Yeah, I think he would probably do it. I don't want to see it. Flair can't do it. I mean, Flair was near death a few weeks ago. So, again, I struggle to think who that would be. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I was saying before, I don't know if my microphone was working when I said this, but if anybody could use the Saudi payday for his GoFundMe, it's Superstar Billy Graham. Send him down to the ring. I'm sure he'd be more than willing to take the paycheck and do whatever they asked him to do. Thank you again for everybody who has tuned in here for the live stream. Again, I apologize before when I switched slides to the angry Undertaker photo. My microphone and the phone calls were not enabled. And we'll try to get a handle on the bots in the chat. Yes, I see them. I can't really keep up with them, obviously, as I am live. But we will try to get a handle on them for any future live streams. So I apologize for that. But thank you again for everybody who tuned in here for this Super Showdown, Super Saudi Showdown live stream here on YouTube. The show will be archived, of course, after, a little bit later on tonight. For those of you who want to go back and listen to the full review, check out the poll results. I did flash earlier the Twitter poll results, so that'll be up a little bit later as well. And I will be back at some point this weekend. I'm not sure when. It should go up normal time Sunday morning. Although I'm going to have to record a little bit earlier because I'm flying to Chicago later on Sunday. But episode 603 coming up this weekend. Got a lot to talk about with New Japan, Moxley, wrestling in New Japan, Raw and SmackDown from this past week. And I haven't mentioned anything about this yet. I guess I'll break some news here. We are starting a top 10 countdown of the greatest SummerSlam matches of all time. And it starts this weekend with number 10. Going all the way to August 11th. August 11th is SummerSlam 2019. That'll be the day that we reveal match number 1. So that countdown kicks off this weekend as well. Until then, be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great weekend, and I will see you back here soon for episode 603. Until then, take care, guys.
The Solomonster sounds off.
EC3 lost to Tyler Breeze. I tweeted, that sounds like something you would put on the tombstone of your career. They never should have called him up in the first place if they had no plans for him. I haven't seen a career fade this fast since Jussie Smollett.
The Solomonster sounds off. Available wherever you hear podcasts, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Want more content? Visit youtube.com/The Solomonster for sound off extras and more. And follow The Solomonster on Twitter @Solomonster.
Solomonster.
Put that cigarette out. Solomonster sounds off.